Thank you for clicking this video. This is Batok with Ola, and we want to continue from the last video where we talked about how to examine the nominal complainant in a criminal matter. We're using the crime of stealing as an example. So we want to talk today about how to cross-examine the nominal complainant if you are a defense counsel. So the first question that you want to ask is to probably restate some of the things that the prosecution has said, just to confuse or convince the complainant that they are telling the truth. So you could say that, look at the doc, witness, do you know the defendant? And they will say, no, I have said that I do not know them, or I did not know them before they stole from me, or before the theft, so, or before the stealing. So you'd say, are you telling this honorable court that you saw the defendant for the first time on the 16th day of June 2020? And they would say, yes, my lord, that is what I said. Then the next question would be, how can you be so sure that it was the defendant that came into your house and took your money, as you have alleged, on the 16th day of June 2020? Then they would say something like, I know it was the defendant because I saw the defendant. Next question, but you just told this honorable court that there was no light. How could you be sure? I had, the answer would be, I had a flashlight, and when I left my kitchen upon hearing sounds in my living room and I flashed the light, I saw their face briefly. Then the next question would be, was there an identification parade to ascertain the person of the defendant, or the person of whoever came into your house on the 16th day of June 2020? And then they would say yes. Then you could ask them to explain the identification parade procedure and how they were so sure that it was the defendant. Then they would answer you and say something like, okay, when I flashed the light in his face, and when we struggled briefly as he tried to break free, I could smell him, and when the ID parade was conducted, I smelled the same smell. And then he had a mark across his left eye, and I saw the same mark. That's how I know that is the person. The defense could say something like, are you an olfactory expert? How could you say that they smell some way? Men smell the same way all the time. You could be smelling sweat, and then they would say that anyone could have a mark on their forehead. So how could you say that they are the one just because of that? And they might reply and say something like, the defendant did not speak throughout the incident. They kept grunting, but they never spoke, even when I grabbed hold of them. All the other participants in the identification parade could speak. Only the defendant was mute as well. So that's the third thing that I used to identify them as my assailant, or as the person that stole from me. Then if no ID parade was conducted, that is even all the best for you as a defense counsel. You can just hide under that, because there's a provision of law that in such circumstances as the theft happened, the stealing happened, that there was no light and it was for a brief period, the encounter, there was supposed to be identification parade. So that would have knocked off some points on the side of the prosecution. But now that an ID parade was conducted, you cannot use that, and that's why you're asking all these questions. So now you've taken ID parade out of the way. They have ascertained. Then you say that, describe your house to me. You can ask that question, and then they'll say it's a 1-bedroom apartment with a kitchen and a toilet and suite, and and it has one entrance only. It has an iron door. It's one of 3 apartments in the compound, blah, 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 blah. Then you ask further questions that, were you the only one in your compound when this incident happened? Yes. They could say, yes, and I was the only one. My neighbor had gone to church, and my other neighbor had not been around for about a week. Then you say, did you cry for help when this happened? They will say, no, there was no one I could have cried out to, because I was the only one in the apartment. Then you could repeat that just to tell the court that something might be fishy. You did not cry you did not cry out for help when someone was robbing you and you were clearly the only one in the house. You must have been so sure of your safety, or of your own strength or ability to overpower whoever it was. because ordinarily any person would cry out for help. Then they would repeat and say something like, I knew that there was nothing that would come out of it, and I was even shocked beyond reason to have immediately cried out for help. Did you cry out for help afterwards would be the next question. No, I did not, but I called my sister who told me to report to the police. Then the next question would be, when did you notice that your money was gone? I noticed immediately they had left, because I tried to survey my properties to see if anything was intact, because I could not understand what a thief would have come into my house to do. Are you saying that your house was ordinarily secure and that you have never been attacked like this or stolen from like this before? No, I have never been stolen from. I've never been stolen from like this, and the apartment is secure, the area is secure. How long have you lived in the house? Then they would say something like, I've lived here for 3 years and we've never had this kind of incident. So you checked. Why were you checking? Were you checking for something in particular? Why would you have checked for the money in particular, or for the envelope in particular? And they'll say something like, that envelope was the most valuable thing in my house at the time. I just brought it in that evening. So immediately the thief left. That was immediately the defendant left. That was where my mind went to, and that's why I went to check. Or it could be that they discovered it as they were struggling with the defendant, and they would say something like, I noticed that they held an envelope, the same envelope I'd brought in that evening, containing words of dollar notes. And that was when I discovered that that would have been what they came for, or that is what they took from my house. Then you can say something else like, are you saying that nothing else was missing? Then they will say, yes, nothing else was missing. And then you could probe further and say that, was your door locked when you were in the kitchen cooking, or when you discovered that they were inside the house? No. Are you saying they did not have to break into your house? You carelessly left your door open for anyone to come in, and they might be taken aback at this if they didn't prepare for it, and they will say, well, they might be before dude, just like, I do not know what to say now. They might not know what to say. Or they could say something like, I often or always leave my door like this when I'm awake in the house before I go to sleep. When I'm going to sleep, that's when I lock the house. I put it to you that you were deliberately careless, or that you were expecting someone to come in, just not the defendant. Or you could even weave a conspiracy theory that they are in cahoots with the defendant, and probably because their plan did not go as plotted, that's why they turned against the defendant. So you could say something like, you were the only one in the compound. You live alone. It was 8:30 p.m. at night, and you left your door unbolted. That says something about how security conscious you are. They could have a retort and say something like, the house is secure, the compound is secure, the area has always been secure. I have never been attacked like this or stolen from like this before, but you were the only one in the house. You should have taken extra caution. Well, they could say something like, well, I understand that now, and it will not repeat itself. I put it to you that you were careless. That does not do anything for their client in the grand scheme of things, but they can say that anyways. And if you're a defense counsel, you can say that too. And then you could then go and ask, and then you could take a turn and ask, what were you doing with a wad of dollar notes as a Nigerian, working in Nigeria, earning in Nigerian naira? What were you doing with a wad of dollar notes in your house? Then they would have to explain what they were doing with the money and how they came about the money. And if not, they might have a good answer ready for you. So they could say something like, maybe they're even a BDC operator. I'm a Bureau de Change operator, and this is how our business, our trade is. I often bring money in like this and take them back to work the next day. Or a client needed this money the next day, and they asked me to bring it for them early next morning. So you could ask several questions around how they came about the money. It doesn't do much for your clients because there's no reason to steal it, no matter how they came about it, but you could go that way as well. Then you could also bear down on speculation and say that they were just victimizing your client, that it's not possible for them to have ascertained the person of your client, within that short interactive period, and even with the possibility of identifying them during an ID parade. Of course, they might and should have ready answers for that. And then you could ask that, how old are you? They will tell the court their age, and just to point out if they could be telling the truth or not. At this point, you can tender the statement of the nominal complainant. Please watch the video we did on evidence and document tendering, so that you understand how to tender a document. You know that for public documents, you are supposed to tender the originals or the certified true copy if they are photocopies, and for private documents, you tender the original as well. So you can, in this instance, you can tender the statement of the nominal complainant if there's a disparity between what they have said and what they wrote down. You can then tender it. Maybe they wrote in their statement that it happened around 7:30 and they've now told the court that it happened around 8:30. You can bring that out. Or maybe they said they locked their door and now they've told the court that they did not lock their door. You can bring that out. So if there are disparities in the statements and the oral evidence that's been given, you can also bring that out in favor of your client. So many questions you can ask, but this is just to give you an idea of how to cross-examine the defense in a criminal but this is just to give you an idea of how to cross-examine the nominal complainant in a criminal matter. So please watch the examination and the cross-examination of the nominal complainant. Watch those two videos together for coherence, and I will always see you in my very next video. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to turn on notifications. Don't forget to check the description box for the amazing offers I always have for you. And don't forget to tell someone about Bar Talk with Ola. Toodles.